In this tutorial, I'm going to show you three different methods to create text effects for Cartoon Animator. The first one is creating an animated prop in After Effects. So I'm making this 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels and 15 frames a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a background color just so I can see what I'm making, and then I'll lock that. And the next thing is to use the Ellipse tool to create a bubble. Now this one's got a fill of white and a stroke which is black at 15 pixels. You can change that color, you can change the stroke color and the stroke width as well. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is create the little peak on the bubble, but let's just label this first as bubble, this shape. And then with the pen tool, we're going to draw a little spike. And close that up, and we will call that spike. Okay, now what we want to do is merge the spike and the bubble together so they're basically one shape. So on the shape layer, click it, and on the add option, click that little drop down will appear, and then what you want to do is click on merge paths. Okay, and now that is one shape, and let's just call that bubble. So to do a basic animation on this, what you want to do is you want to change the anchor point, which at the moment is in the middle, to you want to move it so it's at the bottom of the spike. So hover over pan behind tool, and you can drag that anchor point and move it down to the tip of the spike. And just to test it out, what we'll do is we'll just rotate it slightly, and it should pivot on the tip of that spike. So change the rotation, and there you go, you can see it's going back and forth. Okay, so now what we want to do is a really basic animation on this. So you want to do scale, position, and we'll try a rotation out as well. So set a keyframe for these at the very beginning of the animation sequence. And then what you want to do is go forward a few frames. So we'll go to 2 seconds to start off with. Then put another keyframe on these. Then change that rotation back to 0 so there's a little bit of movement. And play that through. It's a bit slow, so let's move that all to about 1 second. Okay, then you want to make the scale to 0 because it's going to pop up. You can see a very basic motion going on there. It's a bit slow still, so let's move it to 10 frames. That's probably a bit better. And now what you want to do is you want to make it look like it bounces slightly. So just before it gets to 100%, put another keyframe and make it 110%. And then make it down to 90% so it's like it's going down a little bit, and then back up to 100%. And it would look like it's bouncing a little bit. You can change the keyframe slightly to see if you get like a bit more of a smoother look. And don't forget, this is 15 frames a second, so it will probably look a bit jerky anyhow. And the reason why I'm doing 15 frames a second is just so it looks a bit more cartoony. So we'll just change the rotation. Sometimes the rotation looks okay, but I think when we're dealing with a few frames a second, it might look a bit jerky. So it looks a little bit ropey there. I might take that out in a second. Let's just change a few keyframes to see if we can fix that, and if not, we'll just take it out. It's looking a bit dodgy. As always, if it doesn't look good, just take it out, and I didn't think that looked very good. So I'll play it through again. It's very basic, it's got a very basic bounce in it. Now what you can do is highlight them all and then try and sort out the smoothness of it. So I tend to go into the graph editor, and as you can see, there's quite jerky. So if you click on it, click on the option down here, and it basically puts a curve to the motion. And it might only be really subtle when you look at it, when you watch it back, but if it makes it look a bit smoother, that's always good. There you go, it looks a bit smoother now. So if I come back onto, let's play it through one more time, back onto the main timeline, you'll see that the keyframes turn into circles, which means it's got an effect on it, so that's all good. You can try a motion blur on this. It might look a bit ropey because there's not many frames here. Yeah, it's only really blurring the top of it, so we'll turn that off. Okay, so we've now made our speech bubble pop up. Next thing you want to do is put some text in it. So we'll put, with the text tool, we will type the words hello in the middle here. The text is currently set to white, so I'm just going to change that to black just so you can see it. And we'll eyeball it and make it a bit bigger. 150 should be about right. Then we'll move that into the center of the speech bubble. Now you can do some fancy effects on the text here. You can make it so it draws itself on. Each letter comes in individually. What we'll do, we'll just put a simple typewriter preset on this. Let's move that to where you want it to come in. And then in the effects and presets, we'll type the word typewriter. And you should see an option called animate in typewriter, and simply drag and drop that onto the text. And then we'll play that through. Okay, I can tell it's coming on very slowly. So what we'll do is we'll open that up, and the animation 1 will just open that up until we can get to the keyframes. Then we'll drag those in a little bit, and that'll make the text come on a bit quicker. And there you go. You've got the speech bubble popping up, and you've got the text writing itself on the screen. So this is all very simple, very basic stuff here. There's probably some more advanced tutorials on YouTube that will teach you how to make a even cooler looking speech bubble. So what we'll do is we'll render this out. Let's play it through another time just to see, make sure we're happy with that. And it's very simple, very basic, but that would do. And we've made it 5 seconds now because 10 seconds was quite long. So now we'll get rid of the backgrounds, and then we'll add to render queue. We'll go to settings, and in the format we'll find PNG sequence, put the alpha channel on, click OK. And then we'll save it into a new folder. And then we will render it out. Now that's rendered out, we'll open up Photoshop, go to our PNG files, select them all, and then drag them all into Photoshop. And all those separate layers will now come in as a different image. So I'm just going to fast forward this bit because I'm just sorting the order out, because it brings them in backwards and we want them to go from 0. But at the moment they're going the other way around. So once you've sorted those out, select everything, right click and go to group from layer and give that a name. So we'll call this bubbles or bubble. Then go to file, save as, and then we'll save that as a PSD file. Now we've done that, we go to Cartoon Animator and then we'll import that as a prop. So we'll open up our PSD file and we'll click open. Move that up to the screen a little bit so we can see it a bit better. And in the sprite editor, we'll see that there's all our frames for our sequence there. So, like in other tutorials, we'll open up the timeline, and then every 2 frames, we'll swap out the sprites. So I'll fast forward this again, because this is going to take a bit of time to do, and it's a bit boring, but what I'm doing is every other frame swapping it out for a new sprite, until I get to the end of the sequence. Okay, now we've done that, I'm just going to make the project 61 frames, which is the length of that sequence. And then we'll go over to prop, click on prop, then go to custom, and then click on the little plus. And then that will save as a prop in our custom props. So we'll call that hello, we'll call it hello 1. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is delete that. Now I'm just going to bring in a little character that I've made already, so drag and drop that onto the stage mode. Okay, so there's our character. Then we'll go to animation, we're going to go to custom, and I've made a few pre-made motions here. Yep, click on presentation, and go down to wave at the bottom. This is one of the ones I gave away for free. Drag and drop that onto the character. Then my little character does a very simple basic wave. Okay, so we'll go forward a little bit, and then we'll go to our prop. We'll find our prop, hello 1, drag and drop that onto the screen, and then go. We can resize that slightly, change the position. Oops, just gonna get rid of a transform there. Let's cut that. And there you go. So it's basically an animated prop of our text. I don't really do this that often, to be honest with you. I don't normally put text on the screen, but this is how you would do it. Well, this is one way you'll do it. I'm going to cover 2 more ways in a second. So let's play that through a little bit more. Just going to rotate it slightly. Let's get rid of that keyframe on the transform, otherwise it would have rotated. It would have animated the rotation. Okay, that's not too bad. It's very simple, very basic. I'm sure you can make something more elaborate. So what we'll do, we'll just put a background in this now. Let's try this street background, see what that looks like. Might clash with the hair a little bit. Yeah, it's a bit clashy. So let's just use a stage mode, because that's a pretty good one. And play that through. And there you go. Our little character's waving, and our little animated prop of text is popping up. The good thing about this is that you can make something quite elaborate if you wanted to in After Effects. Just going to play it through a few times. I'll tell you what, no, I'll actually just render. No, we'll play it through. Just going to put a little bit of animation on the face. So I use one of the pre-made motions here. I know it's a mal motion, but it's a good motion and it works on all characters. So sometimes the noses and the eyebrows will disappear, but that's fine. So go back to the beginning of the timeline, click on your sprite editor, and basically go to the face, go to your left eyebrow, for example here, and then click on it, right eyebrow, click on it, on your nose, and click on it, and then it'll all suddenly appear again. Let's play that through, and there you go, that's looking good. So once you've done that and you're happy with that, you go up to File, Render Video. I'm going to do mine at 1080. And then render it out. That's one way, and shortly we're going to go through 2 more different methods. So this is method 2. This is just one image that I've made in Photoshop. It's from the sequence, but I'm going to export that as a PNG file. This is a very simple technique, this one. So we'll call this hello text. And we'll just save that into my folder. Go to save. Then we'll open up Cartoon Animator. And we'll go to create media, and then we'll import this as a prop. So we'll find our PNG file. Open that and bring that in. Okay, it's pretty large, so let's shrink it down. And we'll move that into position. Now there's this option here called elastic motion, and it puts animation effects onto props. So what we'll do is we'll find one of these. So we'll probably go over enlarge, drag and drop that on, and it does a little animation, and it's very similar to what I was creating in After Effects, and it's a lot quicker to do. So that will just pop on, and that actually looks good. I actually think that probably looks better than the animated prop I did in After Effects, to be honest with you. So, and it was a lot quicker. I mean, you don't get the text writing on, but that doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do here is just go to transform for the text. Click on the first keyframe. I'm just going to rotate it slightly. Let's go about there. I'm just going to restore the workspace settings. So restore workspace and play that through. Okay, as you can see, that was very simple to do, that one. So what I'm going to do now is get it so the text fades out. So if we click on exit, then we'll click drag and drop fade out onto it, and it'll just disappear. Well, it will fade out. So there you go, play it through, it'll bounce on, and then it'll fade off. Okay, so this is method 3. And this is using the effects that come inside Cartoon Animator themselves. So I'm not going to use Photoshop, and I'm not going to use After Effects on this one. So you go to your SFX, you click on text and then comic, and there's loads of different speech bubbles you've got going on here. So I'm just going to shrink that down. And this is actually the first time I've ever used these, actually. So I'm working this out as I'm going along. So you double click on your speech bubble and you can type your text in. Just delete that. Okay, I'm trying to work out what I do here. Do I add? Nope, so delete that. I'll probably click on apply at the bottom there. So go hello. Yeah, there you go. So it's come through. It's a bit small, so I'm just going to make that text a bit bigger. Let's try 72. Click apply. There you go. That looks okay. And you can change the font as well if you want to by the look of it. So go back to the beginning of the sequence. Now, because it's not a prop, I can't seem to drag and drop these motion files onto it, but we'll give it a go. So try and find the ones we had a second ago. So they go enlarge. If I drag and drop that on, it's not letting me do it, which is a shame, but it doesn't really matter, because what you can do, you could just manually shrink them down and move them yourself. So let's go down here, click on the options here, so we'll make it smaller. Yep, let's get rid of that from the previous method. Make it so it goes bigger. There you go. Make it a little bit smaller. Rotate it a little bit. Go into that keyframe and rotate that as well. Just sort the opacity out a little bit, so it's basically fades from 0. So we go to 0, go forward a bit, and type 100. There you go. Just going to move all those keyframes forward a little bit, just so it doesn't happen straight away. Oops. Something going on wrong there with the opacity. Let's have a quick look at what's going on there. Oops. Okay, and get a bit of a model here. Okay. It starts up with 0, goes to 100, then it goes to 0 again. But let's just move those along a little bit. Let's make that 100. I can probably delete it, but I'll just make it 100 because it's quicker. Play that through, and there you go. It fades up, pops up, and it does a very similar effect to what the other ones do as well. Okay, so once you're happy with that, you go to render video. Again, I'm doing it at 1080, give it a file name and save it out. So that's a third way that you can create a text effects for Cartoon Animator, and it's probably the best one because you can do it all inside Cartoon Animator, but it's good to see some different methods using After Effects to create an animated prop, and also using Photoshop to create a PNG file that you can then animate in the software.